I was actually in one of the biggest tournaments of the year. I'd already played the first day of it, and I woke up and I was getting ready for it the second day, and I just had a feeling, like a really overwhelming sense of sense of a feeling, almost like a voice that said, "Go home and go back to school." And so I did. I called the tournament and withdrew from the tournament that very minute and packed up my stuff and drove home. And 2 weeks later, I was in school.
Welcome to the Comfort Dental Podcast. Get a peek behind the mask with real people and real conversations.
So today I get to be with Dr. Jeremy Liddiard out of North Pueblo, Colorado, Comfort Dental. Dr. Liddiard, thank you so much just for letting me interview you today.
No problem.
So I'm just curious, in the very beginning, like what was your journey getting into dentistry?
That's quite the story, I guess. I mean, on the outside, it kind of seems like would be just your typical story. My dad's a dentist, and I grew up as a dentist's son, and so people would think I just wanted to do what my dad did, and that's not true at all. In fact, I grew up thinking I was never going to be a dentist. Like I played golf in high school. I was really good. I was one of the best in the state. I grew up in Utah, and I went on to play college golf, which I hated. I loved golf. I loved competing in golf, but I didn't like the college golf scene and all of that. So I turned professional and chased that for about 5 or 6 years, and really just got sick of um, living in a suitcase, traveling all the time, living in my car, and I just got to the point where I was like, I just didn't want to do it again. And somebody once, I was kind of expressing my feelings at the time to somebody, and they because I considered at that point, I was like, well, my dad works at 3 days a week and makes way more money than I do, has all this free time to go boating and do all these things. And I was like, well, I'm working 7 days a week, sun up to sundown, trying to make the PGA tour. And I was like, I'm not making even close to what my dad does. And he works way less. I was telling somebody that, and I said, but I feel like it's for me to go back. And, because even if I killed it in school and did it as fast as possible, I'd be like 35 or 36 by the time I graduated school. And this person looked at me and said, well, you're going to be 35 anyways. And so I was like, it's true. Like I could be 35 and still chasing the dream and living in a car. Maybe I make it, but if I don't, then I'm just a washed up golfer that's really good at golf, but has nothing to show for it. And so I, I'm a fairly religious, so I did a lot of soul searching and praying, and I was actually in one of the biggest tournaments of the year. I'd already played the first day of it, and I woke up and I was getting ready for it the second day, and I just had a feeling, like a really overwhelming sense of a feeling, almost like a voice that said, "Go home and go back to school." And so I did. I called the tournament officials and withdrew from the tournament that very minute, and packed up my stuff and drove home. And 2 weeks later, I was in school. I was back in school, and 7 years later, I was graduating from dental school. So
Okay, so I don't know if I've ever heard of a professional golfer turned dentist. Like that is a fascinating story. Do you know of any other ones?
I don't know anybody else.
I think the difficulty always with the professional sport angle. I was a runner in high school and I got injured, so I didn't even get to do it in college. But I know running, there's not really a high upside. Even if you become great, aside from maybe marathons where you get a check for maybe 150,000, maybe with sponsorships, that's your one chance. But there's not really a high upside. I'm sure with golf, if you make the PGA Tour with sponsorships, you win some tournaments. There's a lot of money in golf. But for all those amazing athletes that are right there on the cusp, but never actually break into that top, you got nothing to show for it.
Exactly.
So for you to have the wisdom to be like, you know what? I know I'm good. This isn't like I'm not betting on myself type thing. This is just like there's a lot of other good people too. Now dentistry, like you said, your dad was a dentist. You knew that he was making good money. I understand the whole thing of like, well, my dad's doing it. That almost means like I got to do my own thing, like I don't want to just do what dad did. What was your conversation like with your dad when you let him know what you were doing, that you were pursuing dentistry as a career?
Well, he was always super supportive. Um, I think I'm a father now. I have my own sons, and I mean, I would love for my sons to become a dentist someday, because of all of the benefits that it comes with. I mean, there's the respect of being a doctor, and you get to help people. Um, I think that one of the biggest things that dentistry has going for it over an MD, like a regular doctor, is that it's much more business ownership, and you get to be your own boss, master of your own destiny, and control your daily life. And with I have family and friends that are MDs, and they're on call. They work for hospitals. There's all these insurance, there's board certifications that you have to have. And it just seems like dentistry is much more of a untouched area from the insurance companies. So it has kind of ruined general medicine.
Okay, so I'm curious, when did you know you made the right decision? Was it after dental school? Was it a few years into practice? Like, when did you realize, like, okay, dentistry, like, this is this is this is the right path for me?
Well, okay. So this kind of ties back to, like, I believe in God. I believe that He is in control. I think that He opens doorways for us when we choose the right path. And so when I went back to school, it wasn't as just like, okay, I'm back. I'm going to start back in classes. When I had quit college golf and quit that avenue, I just dropped out of school, like, and failed all my classes, and just walked away because I was like, I'm never going to do this again. I'm just turning professional, and here we go. And so they put me on academic suspension, and because I failed out that whole semester basically. And so when I went back, I had to go talk to the counselors, and they're like, you can't register, and you have to go through this appeal process. And that was 3 months ago. So you could apply for next year. And I was like, look, I don't have time for this. I'm 28 years old. Like, I need to do this now. Like, what can I do to make this happen now? And they're like, well, there's actually only one way. You can go talk to it. It was my biology teacher, and which I had gotten a D plus because I hadn't taken the last three tests, but I'd got an A on the first two tests,
Mm.
and so that was good enough to, even without taking the rest of the tests, it was good enough for me to get a D plus. They're like, you would need him to change your grade to a C minus for that semester 5 years ago, and if he does that, then that would raise you up above the minimum, and he would take you off the suspension, and we could register. And she's like, but I've been doing this a long time. I've never seen that happen. But she goes, I was persistent. So I was like, okay, well, is there a form? So she's like, here's the form. You take it to him. If he signs it, you can bring it back to me, and we'll change it, and you'll be good to go. So I went right to his office. He wasn't there. I waited because I figured out that he was in a class. And so I waited by his office. I think I probably waited an hour and a half maybe. And then he showed up. And so I explained the whole story to him. I said, I left because I was playing professional golf, and that was my dream. And now I have a new dream, and I want to be a dentist. And, they won't let me register because of this. And I said, they need you to change my grade to a C minus. And he was like, well, I've never done that before. Like, that's not something we do. I said, well, look, I, if you look at my test scores, I got A's on your first two tests. It's not that I just left. You can look at all my classes. I left. And he goes, I can see this mattered a lot to you, and I like to see that. So he signed it. And so I went back to her, the counselor, like, she was like, I never thought I'd see you again. And I was like, well, here's this paper. He signed it. And so I registered for my classes, and I mean, there's other things too. Like, they wouldn't let me register for the chemistries I wanted to take. So I had this whole plan. I was like, I'm going to do this as fast as possible. So I had mapped out all my semesters. I was going to take 16 to 18 credit hours per semester of just high, like, science classes. They wouldn't let me register for chemistry because they're like, my old math class, it's been too long, and now you have to retake that math class to be able to take the chemistry class. And math was always my best subject. And so I was like, look, I can do math, like, and so they're like, well, now you have to have the chemistry teacher sign off on this so you can register for these classes. And so I was went and waited for him, and he put three math problems. I've done math for 6 years at the time, right? And he put three math problems on the board and said, if you can solve these, I'll sign it. And I sat there and looked at them. It took me a few minutes to figure it out, but I did them. I solved them. And he was like, okay. So he signed it. And then, so this is where I, s- I knew I was on the right path because doors were opening for me that didn't open. They weren't supposed to open. And, you know, there's other things along the way too, but
But so was there
I
a
never
moment
looked
though?
back.
Was there a moment when you were in practice and you're doing what dentist does, which is like your hands and mouth, but so you're chair side, but you're also like running a business, and you're like,
Mhm.
man, I like this. Like I like this dynamic of actually caring for people. I'm so glad because like you don't necessarily know like the last, dentist I was interviewing was gonna be a painter, had no problem painting all through the night, listening to music. No interaction with people. So to all of a sudden realize, wow, I'm kind of an introvert. I didn't think I was gonna dentistry. I don't know. I wasn't expecting I like this. And now all of a sudden I'm chairside, one on one with another individual that's in pain. And I'm able to give them their smile back. I'm able to give them their confidence back. I'm able to, transform their situation right now in the moment. Like, I don't know if you can anticipate what that's going to be like until you experience it. What was that experience like for you?
Well, so that actually goes back to right when I was graduating. My dad was practicing in Utah and had a practice, and he'd been very successful. But I was like, "Hey, Dad, it's super competitive in Utah. Let's go somewhere else. Let's go to Arizona." You know, and I was like, It's warm down there all year round, golf all year round, and it's not as competitive for dentists down there in Utah is." And so we started looking other places and stuff, and ended up selling a practice in Utah. And then we got recruited by a company called Pacific Dental Services to go practice in Arizona. And they were super excited to get somebody like my dad who had been a high volume, high producing dentist in Utah, cosmetic practice. And and then they stuck me in a neighboring practice that was already established just so I could learn. While my dad builds a big new fan they wanted him to run, that I was going to join him down the road once it was kind of up and running. Um, Pretty quickly. So after moving to Arizona and starting working as a dentist, I was seeing like four, maybe eight patients on the busiest day I had. And I don't know, there was something missing. And so I talked to my dad a lot. He wasn't having fun either because they were doing the same thing to him. They were like, it's a slow build. And like, well, we need patience. Like, you can't do dentistry without patience. And plus I didn't like the idea. I didn't like that type of dentistry. It was, they didn't want me to do any oral surgery. They didn't want me to do any endodontics. They wanted me just to stick to doing fillings and grafts. Like that was it. And I always really liked endodontics and oral surgery. And so when I was like, hey, I want to do this, they were like, no, we can send that to the specialist and the company makes more money because they can bill it out from a specialist doing it. And I was like, I mean, I get that from a business point of view, but I hate it. So I mean, pretty quickly, within 2 to 3 months of being in Arizona, I was like, this isn't for me. And so I started calling some of my friends that were doing dentistry in other parts of the country. And I reached out to a friend of mine here that's part of Comfort Dental. And he was like,
Now at this point in time, did you know much about Comfort Dental?
well, I had heard about it in dental school
Okay. What
because
did
they
you hear
would
about it?
come.
What had you heard about it?
Well, so Rick Kushner actually came to my school when I was there, and he
Okay.
gave his little presentation, and it was like, wow, because it's hard to sell the opportunity with Comfort Dental, because people like want to get weird about well, we don't want to talk about how much who makes and all this kind of stuff, and it's like, no, like we're talking careers. I want to know what somebody's making, like, so if I can do that, I want to make that, or maybe I don't want to make that, like, and so I love the transparency that they brought because he was just like, look, if you join Comfort Dental, the average, and this is 2015, and he was like, the average dentist for Comfort Dental makes $427 a year. And I was like, well, that sounds good.
How do I sign up? Just kidding.
So I went to my clinic leader at the time, and who was a semi-retired dentist, and he had worked in Colorado. And he was like, "You don't want to do comfort. Like, it's Walmart dentistry. You don't want to do that." And I really respected this teacher, so I didn't really take the opportunity to research it further than that. And so then I got into Arizona, and all that happened, and then you know, desperation opens your mind. So I called my friend, and he was like, "Hey, comfort's amazing. I get to help people. I'm doing more dentistry than I ever thought I would do, and I'm making more money than I ever thought I would make." That's what he said. And I was like, "Okay, what are these numbers?" And so he told me, and I was like, "Uh." So I got on. The Comfort Dental has their little website where you can get on and express interest, and then they'll fly you out and to a what they call a Peapod meeting, um, which is a prospective partner orientation, whatever. I don't remember what it stands for. They just basically go through everything there is about Comfort Dental, and they show you the numbers, what offices are making, and then they have some doctors come and talk to you, tell them how great it is or whatever, or their experience. And this is how we get to the point where I knew I had found the right spot. Is during that Peapod meeting when they were one of the doctors was expressing the ability to just help those that need it. And for me, I've always really enjoyed helping people. Like, I'll give you the shirt off my back if you need it kind of thing. Like, and it gets me in trouble sometimes. My wife's like, "Why did you do it?" And I'm like, "Well, they needed it more than I did, you know?" But, um, yeah, I mean, I think that started when I was just a kid. I've always really liked to help people. I'm the oldest of six. And so I've always been the caretaker. I take care of my brother. I took care of my brothers and sisters my whole life, and I mean, I remember when I was like 11 or 12, we lived in this apartment complex, and some little kid fell off the swing and got hurt. And like, I think like 4 or 5 years old. And so I went over and picked him up and like carried him across the playground to his, I knew where he lived. And so I took him over to his mom, and they come out crying. They're like, "Thank you so much for bringing him home." Just like, I just have always wanted to help those that are either less fortunate or down on their luck at the time, you know, um, that kind of stuff. So
Well, so doctor, I'm curious, when you now join Comfort Dental, how long does it take for you to realize like, wow, like it wasn't too good to be true. It really was an opportunity or is an opportunity for me to make good money while at the same exact time being really proud of what I'm doing.
yeah, so not very long. So it it took a couple of months after the Peapod meeting to find the right practice that was looking for a partner, because that's kind of how it works. You have to find a partnership or a practice that is looking to expand, or a doctor's selling out, and so you can buy their position. And so I actually tried a few. I interviewed with a couple different offices and didn't get hired. Like, they didn't want me. And so, or they didn't want to stay at the time or whatever it was. Like, and so it was becoming, I don't know if I would say depressing. Like, I was working in an office that I really didn't like, doing a type of dentistry that I really didn't enjoy. And I would literally like, I'd go into the work, I'd go into the workplace, we'd go into the office, and I would see like one or two patients, and then I'd have like a 3 hour break. So I'd go sit in my car, and I would just serve what they call the Peapod list, which was the practices that are available that are looking. And so I literally checked that like 15 times a day, looking for any updates. And I was out there in the car one morning, and the Pueblo practice popped up on it. And I called them that instant. And the doctor said, "I just listed that like 30 minutes ago." I was like, "Well, I've been looking, you know?" And me and that doctor had like a 45-minute conversation the first time we ever talked to each other. And it was just like a really good conversation. And he even said that I didn't expect to, you know, talk to you for 45 minutes. And so and we talked, and shortly after that, we scheduled like a meeting for me to fly out and meet with the partners. And my wife came with me, and we had dinner at his house. And I just knew I knew then that this is what I was going to do. And that I went and watched them work, and I saw the way they did dentistry, the way they treated their patients, like the amount of patients like was mind-boggling coming from where I had been seeing 4 to 8 patients a day.
So you wanted to be busy. Like you had no problem working your butt
Yeah.
off when you were there.
No, I've never been afraid of working hard. I actually go crazy if I'm sitting around doing nothing, like that. That's when I get myself into trouble. So I end up buying things I shouldn't buy.
So how long have you
But
been there now?
10 years, well, 9 years, just over 9 years.
Wow.
So we've been we've been great ever since.
So tell me, what is it that you love the most about what you get to do every day?
I get to help people. Like in Arizona, when I was practicing in Arizona, those 4 to 8 patients I would see, most of them needed a cleaning and maybe like one filling, and then another one patient might need a crown. But other than that, they didn't need anything because in more affluent areas, or I don't know what you want to call it, just a different demographic, patients take better care of their teeth, so they just don't need a dentist. And in the area that I get to work, they need a dentist, and it is it is unbelievably satisfying to be able to take somebody who has either had really bad experiences their whole life at the dentist and completely change their perspective to be able to say, hey, we can, no matter how messy it is right now, we can get you somewhere where you can smile again, you can be happy again, you can be out of pain, and we'll do it together. And I've always believed this, and I think my dad told it to me when I was young, is the more you serve others, the more you get in return. And I just have always taken that to heart. I said that probably 2 days ago to my own sons. And so I believe that. And I believe that Comfort Dental gives us the opportunity to do that because we, at least in Colorado, we're the largest Medicaid providers. And that's the demographic that needs us the most. And so we get to help the most people. And so I think because I've chosen to use my skills to, to help people, I've been blessed.
I'd love to know, doctor, a little bit more about just your practice. Like how would you describe like even the culture of your team?
Yeah, so that's a good one because when I joined the practice, it was it had been started and ran, and it was doing well, but it was it was still too, how do I say this? It was still too much of a assembly line where patients just came in and it was like, all right, here you are, put your teeth out, get out the door, see you later. And I'd grown up my whole life watching my dad do dentistry, private practice, high end, you know, uh, cosmetic, you know, needy patients, you know, that demand a certain level of care. And so when we joined, like I started implementing some of those things that I had said here. I was like, we should pay our staff a little more. We should maybe upgrade some of the facilities. Like, let's just because we're treating Medicaid patients doesn't mean we have to be a hole in the wall, you know. And I really liked the way we changed it. We changed the expectations of our patients. They expected now that we're going to do high quality dentistry, and it has shown in its fruits. Like the crazy story, it's part of the story is like I joined North Pueblo in 2016, December of 2016, and in August of 2019, my dad joined, and so he is in my practice too. And long story short, how he got there, but he had joined another comfort office because he came with me looking, and he joined another one, and that partnership just didn't work out. So in 2019, he had the opportunity to join me, and he did, and it's been great ever since, and it's still with me. So we've done, we just built a brand new office. We that office that we were in was, I mean, the building was built in the 90s, I think, 80s maybe. And so the practice had been there since 2005. And we decided that we were so busy, we were just bursting at the seams. Like our waiting room was always packed full. There's no room to sit down. So we just built a new office. We moved in December, just last December. And we expanded from the 8 chairs we used to have to 13 operatories now. And we're as busy as ever.
I mean, it's a very interesting thing to have someone like your dad that knew quality slow, high touch patient care,
Yeah.
cosmetic, to now all of a sudden make that switch to comfort dental, which has to be probably more efficient, um, you know, um, busier, longer days possibly. What has been his experience when it comes to even still like fulfillment? Is he finding the same levels of fulfillment or even more fulfillment with this model?
Yeah. So you could ask him, but we've talked about it many times, but like he would tell you the same thing. He would tell you that this is more fulfilling because, like I said, we're serving more people. Um, and when you get to serve more people, it's just more fun. Like I don't dread going to work. Like I enjoy going to work. So I yeah, and I love the fact that I get to work with my dad. Um, works because we just built this new office. We're expanding. We're adding a fifth doctor. He starts in March, and he's actually my best friend. So he's joining up. He's been in private practice for the last 7 years of his own practice,
Wow.
and he's just like, it seems like comfort dental is a better way to do it.
Y-
So
Yeah, it sounds like those dentists that really want to get to focus on great clinical dentistry without having to deal with the hassle of, I don't know, making sure that their schedules are full or that their practice has great marketing in the area and somehow can be known. You don't have to worry about patient flow. It sounds like you guys don't have a lead generation problem. You have so many patients coming in that growth seems inevitable. So now you kind of just get to do the dentistry that you want to do. Um, are there any specific like clinical procedures that really light you up?
well, I mean, I enjoy a lot of it. That's one of the things about an innumerable amount of patients is that you get to do more procedures than you ever would anywhere else. And because of that, dentistry is like anything else. The more you do it, the better you get at it.
Reps.
And so I have developed skills, and my dad will say this because he practiced in Utah for 20 something years in his own practice. And he'll be like, oh, he's like, we do 10 times the amount of dentistry here than I ever did in Utah. And because of that, my skills have been able to accelerate to the point of I can do pretty much anything that I want to do. Um, we do a lot of root canals because we're one of the only Medicaid providers in town that will do root canals. Um, and that, based on our patient demographic, that is one of the most needed procedures because if they don't, if you don't do the root canal, the only other option is to remove the tooth. And because of the way the Medicaid is, and you're right about the fact that we don't have to, I'm not worried about insurances most of the time because most of our patients are on Medicaid. And as long as we verify they're on Medicaid, we can do what they need done. And we don't have to have a lot of the conversations of like, well, how much can you pay? And, like I'm sure we still have those conversations with regular patients or on Medicaid patients that, they want something done that's not covered by Medicaid or something like that. But I would say I really enjoy all aspects of dentistry. My friends would probably say Jeremy's the root canal guy because I do a lot of root canal. But and I enjoy them. They're kind of like a little puzzle you have to do every day.
Puzzle, kind of like chasing the white ball across on the
Yeah,
course.
right? Gotta think your way through it.
So tell me, doctor, how has Comfort Dental supported you in building or growing your practice?
Oh, I mean, they've been great. I mean, they do a lot of stuff, outreach in the community to make sure that the Comfort Dental name is out there and known. Um, I mean, Comfort Dental's been here a long time, and so it's kind of well established. Um, it's a well established household name in every community that just like I need dental work done. Plus, they know that Comfort Dental is open 6 days a week. And so when we have a toothache on Saturday, most dental offices are not open, and they haven't been open since Thursday. And so they know that they can come see us. I get patients all the time that come in and they're like, "Well, I was going here, but I had a toothache, and they told me it'd be 3 months." I'm like, "For a toothache? Like 3 months? The tooth might be gone. A tooth that could have been saved might be beyond saving at that point." Making patients wait. So access to care through the Comfort Dental model is a huge reason why we are so successful is that patients know we're open. We provide a place for them to go 6 days a week. And they also know they can get in and see us. Like if they have a toothache, we'll see them that day. Even if I have to just give you antibiotics and schedule you for next week, or if it's something simple like a single extraction or something like that, like we can do that same day. Um, I just think that too many private practice guys, they want to I don't know how to say it. Like they want this super simple, predictable, like I'm going to see this many patients today, and Comfort Dental is kind of more controlled chaos. Like we do more same day dentistry for coverage than anybody. And I would say that Comfort Dental, through their marketing efforts, they constantly have CE for us. They bring in all the CE guys at the headquarters in Denver, or they have online CE courses for us to attend. Like they try to support us quite a bit. I mean,
So what they do well for patients is that accessibility to care. If you need to be seen, they will see you. What they do well for doctors is they provide, I don't know, it's like you have a partner that's got your back, that's going to make sure patients are coming in, continuing to educate you. And I don't know, you have the comfort of knowing that like you've got someone that has the business best practices and the systems down pad. So you're not having to worry about, I don't know, making sure your business is operating the best way all the time because you kind of know Comfort Dental has that taken care of. So you get to do the dentistry that you love. I mean, it seems like the perfect model. What am I missing?
you're not missing anything. I've told that to 20 dentist friends of mine at least, if not more. And actually, there's several comfort docs that I've recruited into Comfort Dental because of that very reason. I'm like, this is the best way to do it. Like, because it's a franchise deal, you get to you get the best of both worlds. Because, like you said, you don't have to worry about advertising and marketing and doing some of this. Now we all worry about our schedules and making sure they're full and certain procedures. Because you could really get yourself overwhelmed if you didn't control it a little bit. But you don't have to worry about some of that stuff, and that's where comfort kind of is the best of like the best parts of a DSO, which are a dental supported operation, which is all the corporate dentistry stuff. And then, but you also get all the benefits of being an owner in a private practice because comfort is kind of hands off. Like if you go to every comfort dental, you'll notice probably huge differences in the way we do things, the way we run things, because that doctor wants it run that way. But when it comes to the core of it, we're all very similar. We're all open 6 days a week. We all want to provide as much access to care as we can, and we all want to help people. And I think that is why Comfort Dental has been so successful.
Yeah, I don't know a better way to describe it, but it almost sounds like you're doing ministry, like boots on the ground, like the actual tip of the spear, where you are helping people's lives, like truly keeping them in good health. Because the mouth is the starting point of good health, and if they can't eat, they can't chew, you know, they can go into decline really, really quickly. And yet at the same time, you're getting compensated, which I think there's nothing wrong with that. It shouldn't have
Yeah,
to just be volunteer work. You're working your butt off. You're working very hard, and I think that's one of the themes that I've noticed is that who's a good partner for Comfort Dental? Someone that wants to give great care, but someone that's not afraid to work hard when they're there
yeah.
and have that agility to be like, yeah, this is what the schedule says, but it might not be like this. You have to be able to handle that controlled chaos or whatever you said.
You you do. Like every day is different. Like some days you can have everything scheduled out and you think you're gonna have this nice, easy, smooth day, and one patient no shows and another patient needs something that you didn't expect, and what turns into three root canals. And so but if you enjoy dentistry, the actual act of fixing teeth, this is the best way to do it.
Okay, so just a quick little patient care philosophy. You shared a ton, but like, what does patient centered care look like in your office?
Well, I mean, first you start off with emergent care. Like what needs to be fixed right away. And because of the fact that I don't know if I'm going to answer this correctly, but we're going to try. So I think because of the way Medicaid is and the fact that we don't have to worry about patient finances and all of that, and because what you brought up, because we're compensated, our model brings to us to being successful financially. I don't worry about the cost of things. Like I give my patients, I probably give $1,000 of dentistry away every day because I don't have to worry about. I'm not worried about it. Like patient needs this, okay, let's just do it. Like they can't afford it. What can you afford? You can only afford half. All right, let's do it. You know, and because I've told this to my friends, and it might be too much for like a podcast, but like I've told my friends, I think it's because we're so successful, I'm not greedy. I don't have to be. Like I don't worry about that at all when I'm at work. Like I worry about helping that patient and helping that patient and doing the best that I can for that patient that day. And if they need a few things that aren't covered or Medicaid's not going to pay for or whatever, they're like, "You going to charge for that?" Let's just we'll give it to them, make their day. So and my dad would tell you the same thing. Who has practice on the other end of the spectrum, and he would tell you the same thing. This is way more fun, just because we just get to help.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, it almost sounds like the comfort dental model allows you to be generous,
Oh, absolutely.
which everyone feels so good when they're in that place. And yet it's hard to be generous when you're not sure you can pay your team.
Yeah,
It's hard to be generous when you feel like you aren't paying your own bills. And that's a really tough place to be in. And a lot of dentists feel trapped, probably like you did in Arizona, where they're doing dentistry in a way that isn't really kind of the way they want to do it, but they don't always know there's another way.
yeah.
And that's what I feel like you're getting to share is that there's a better way.
There is a better word. It's called comfort dental.
Doctor, is there like a patient story, just one that you can think of that has just stuck with you?
Man, there's so many. Like, I mean, well, last week I had a lady who slipped on her back porch, fell and cracked 7, 8, and 9, and 10 was chipped, but 7, 8, 9 were broken to the point where we needed to do root canals on them. And she came in to me and I mean, she was still like bleeding, like when she came in, and she was just brokenhearted, because she just wrecked the front of her mouth, couldn't smile. And we did the root canals that same day and fixed the chip teeth. And she came back. I guess it was a couple years ago, but she came back and we delivered the crowns and restored the teeth. Still looks like I said brand new. And she started crying. She's like, "I cracked my tooth and I was going to be in dentures." And I was like, "Well, you didn't need that. You just needed a little fix up. So and because of that, she was on Medicaid. I was able to do it and change her life, change the outcome that she had expected. And now she'll have those teeth, that look really nice.
So as we're wrapping up, I want to know, like, how do you hope patients describe you after visiting your office?
Hmm. I would say I'm very nice. Like I want my patients to feel like that I took the best care of them that I was capable of. And like my staff will tell you that I'm too nice, but that's just who I am. So I want patients to change if they had a bad experience, or I mean, it just seems like in the culture, like everybody thinks that everybody hates the dentist, you know, and so even if they've never been to a dentist, they're afraid of the dentist, and I want to change that. Like, you don't have to be afraid of the dentist. Like, we can we can change people's perspectives of it.
Okay, so if there's a dentist out there, um, what's one misunderstanding that you might be able to correct that some dentists might have about comfort dental?
Um, I think the biggest thing is Comfort Dental has that reputation among its dentists that um, then we do Walmart dentistry or crap dentistry or just a lesser quality of dentistry. And I would challenge them to change the way you think, because the quality of the dentistry is determined by the dentist. not by the company that it works for or anything like that. It is, and I would say that I would challenge any dentist out there that because we do so much more dentistry than most practices, that our dentistry is probably better because just like anything, the more you do it, the better you are at it. And I think that I'll tell you this story. So, real quick. So, my best friend that's joining us, he had that same perspective of comfort is just low end dentistry. It's just an assembly line, get people in, get them out, do low quality care, the bare minimum. And I have shown him, okay, that's not true. Like, and my dad, who was held to the highest standards in Utah because his practice was in a very affluent area and had to do most perfect dental work. And that's the standard that we hold each other to now. The only thing that changed was the patient in the chair. So sure, some dentistry is harder than others, because some teeth are harder to restore, but that all depends on the damage that's been done to it before we get to see it. And I would say to other dentists that are outside of comfort dental, you don't know what you don't know.
Well, guys, you heard it from Dr. Jeremy Liddiard, who is now hitting holes in one with Comfort Dental. This is not even a good one. Not even a good one.
Right, it was a good try.
Doctor, I just really appreciate you sharing the story. What a crazy story. I didn't think it was going to come to a place where you and your dad are working together now, not in Utah, in
Right.
North Pueblo, Colorado, for Comfort Dental, changing people's lives, doing dentistry, making a difference. Like, how amazing is that?
It's been amazing so far.
Thank you so much for letting me interview you today.
Thank you for listening. You can learn more about Comfort Dental at comfortdental.com.